Hi, guys. Welcome to Living Abroad, the podcast. And thank you so much to everyone who's been watching our episodes and who subscribed, who liked, and sending me private messages. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And today, I've been saying to you, Tolu, like I'm so excited. We have our first, we have our first guest from Canada.
Woo! I'm excited for you as well.
You're excited to be the first one, right?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like a pioneer.
Yeah, Tolu is a travel blogger from Nigeria and currently in Canada. I'm excited.
Yes.
I mean, I've spoken to people from like America, from Nigeria, but the guy is in Poland at the moment. It's not under any
Wow.
nice circumstances. And yeah, but no one from Canada yet.
That's
Yeah,
exciting. I'm looking forward to sharing more about like what life has been in Canada for me so far.
yeah, thank you so much for doing this. And I know we started late now because I had to make sure that the kids are gone. Nice and quiet.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's nice and quiet. We can do this quietly.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'll let you introduce yourself the way you probably prefer to be known, please.
Okay, absolutely.
Uh,
So hi everyone on the Living Abroad, the podcast. I'm glad to be on here. Excited that she brought me on here. I'm Tolu online on Instagram, on Twitter. I go by Unravel with Tolu, and I chose that name because basically the name means to me figuring out the puzzles in your life. And for me, moving abroad has been that big puzzle in my life.
mm,
My moving abroad journey started a couple of years ago when I first did my undergraduate degree in the UK. I was there for 3 years and I moved back to Nigeria, then worked in Nigeria for a while, then moved to Canada. So that's like my little story. And I just feel like my life has been an exciting journey. Um, I don't think a lot of people get the opportunity to live abroad once, but I've gotten the opportunity to do it twice. So
yeah.
I'm really excited for how my life has turned out. Really, it's been a lot of navigation, really, and I hope we kind of get deep into what living abroad is all about. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's really what it's about. I have a blog that I document what it's like living in Canada so far. I started my blog when I moved to Canada for my master's degree.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I share a lot of things how I'm navigating living in Canada, from applying for your student visa to finding accommodation to
Mhm.
getting your driver's license to yeah, so many interesting things. As I figure things out, I kind of share it on my blog. So if you're kind of figuring out where to start from and you want to move to Canada, absolutely that should be your resource. You can also go to my page on Instagram at Unravel with Tolu, and yeah, you find all that good stuff. I can't wait for all the questions you have planned. I'm getting excited and pumped.
No, you're a content creator. Like, so I think I can just sit here and then just let you speak.
Well, I've been doing this for time, so yeah, it kind of goes with the flow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, so which year was it? When were you in the UK?
So I was in the UK 2013 to 2016. I did my undergraduate degree there.
Okay.
I had the best time of my life living in the UK. I miss it so much.
Whereabouts? Where did you
So
stay?
I studied in the University of Essex, but I really moved around a lot. I went to so many cities. I don't think I can count them on my fingers. That's how
Wow.
many cities I went to. I think what was really great was that I had friends living in different cities. So
Okay.
if someone had their birthday coming up, I'll kind of go to their city, then we'll go party and do all that kind of stuff. Then if another friend had a birthday, all of us would kind of go there. So I got to go to Nottingham, Manchester, Leicester. Another thing that really helped me with moving around was at some point I got like a part-time job in the summer,
Okay.
and it was this I don't know what you call them now, but it's like all these waiting staff jobs. Like you go for different events across the country.
Mhm.
So there was a time I went to Liverpool, and oh my god, that's probably one of the worst decisions I ever made in my life
What happened?
because what happened was that they said we're going to work like 7 hour shift and they're going to cover one leg of the trip in terms of your hourly pay. And I think maybe because we took so long to get there, we worked less than 2 or 3 hours. And you had to make that 5 hour trip back again. So it was like 10 hours on the road. You barely walked 3-hour shift. It wasn't the best, but yeah, like that really, like doing those kind of jobs really exposed me to different parts of the UK. The
Okay.
time I worked at the flower show, that was phenomenal. It was fantastic. It was stressful because I was on holiday and I was traveling from Kent to Surrey every day for like a week. So it was stressful, but it was fun because those are experiences that I would never forget. And it was
Yeah.
memorable because ordinarily nothing would carry me to Surrey, but I got to experience Surrey in a different way. So yeah, that's kind of all that jazz we're moving about in the UK.
Yeah. So were you the fan of The Only Way is Essex then, since you were living there?
No, I never even watched the show. So I
Really?
used to see the show on TV, but I never really watched The Only Way is Essex. And I think most people that were on the show were living in Chelmsford, while I was in
Oh,
Colchester. So I didn't really follow the show that much, to
it's
be
not your
honest.
thing.
Nah, it's not my thing. I was starting to get into Love Island, but I don't think I was able to just get into it like the way everyone was.
Oh, my Love Island, is it like now or back in the days?
Now, because I've always heard so much about it, but I've never really followed it. So I was trying to get into it, but
I think I've passed those stage, like watching like your Big Brothers and shows like that. I think I'm too grown, but
yeah.
not as into it. No. Yes. And also, I mean, I think for a Nigerian, I don't think you guys need a lot of motivation to go abroad, to move abroad. But South Africans are like, I don't know, I wouldn't call it like laziness, or maybe we think we've got everything we need within the country, because South Africans don't travel. Even here, meeting a South African is really, really rare, like it's where I am in Scotland. So
Yeah.
why do you think you guys are so much into traveling?
I think it's a series of things, but most of it is really the economic development of the country. I hate to say this because I'm Nigerian, but
Mm.
our government is really struggling. As at today or this week, we're finding out that the conversion rate for $1 to $1 to a naira is 710 naira, which is huge. Like
Mm.
we've never seen that in the country. And for me, yes, when I was in the UK, I remember the first time we ever saw like a change in exchange rates. My parents really felt that change because it's like pounds then was like 250 pounds and it kind of changed to like, let's say 280, 290. That was
Mm.
a very significant change. And to look back and 5 years later, we're talking about dollar is 710, then pounds is probably like 800 and something naira. That's really very expensive. And to
Mm.
add to that, like there's poor supply of electricity, there's bad roads, there's bad governance, no employment opportunities. So everyone is just at the limbo where, like, if you want a better life for yourself, currently Nigeria is not really giving you that. And with the current elections coming up as well, seeing the people that are going up to like contesting to be president, for instance, we don't think we have a viable candidate that can kind of transform us or give us that change we're looking for. Ideally, nobody wants to move abroad, but I think when you know, like, you put in so much work in your education, you want to get something tangible for your work. Like, for instance, I was in the UK and I probably paid over £50,000 in education. That's without thinking about living expenses and other expenses that could have come up, your visa cost and all that. And I go back to Nigeria and somebody's offering me less than 100,000 naira for my first job in Nigeria. Of
Mm.
course, like for me, that's a red flag for me because I'm like, if I was to pay, but let's say I took a student loan to go
Mm.
school in the UK, I would never, like, I'll live my life a long time before I'm able to fully repay back that loan. So for me, that was the reset that, okay, I don't think my country can give me what I need. Maybe I need to further invest myself and immerse myself in another country where
Mm.
I have the opportunity to stay back. And maybe afterwards, if I've stayed back and my residency, my citizenship, and all that stuff, if I want to transform my country, I can do that. So yeah,
Mm.
I think that's the reason why you probably find a lot of Nigerians abroad now. Like I think it reminds me of the 80s and early 90s where there was that mass migration of Nigerians moving abroad. I think we're seeing that again just because of bad governance.
When you talk about like when the 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 current president and someone is running from the president, it's like for us, I think that's where we are as South Africans as well. I don't know if you follow our politics with like President Zuma. who was
No, I don't.
yeah, who was deemed to be so bad, and we had like another president, and now there's these scandals that he was caught like hiding like dollars in his bedrooms and things like that. And you're like, if this guy who's wearing suit, who speaks in English, like properly, who can we have? Like, we're running out of options.
Yeah, I think that's where Nigeria is, to be honest. Like, we've run out of options. The difficulty for someone younger, I'm not saying someone younger would definitely transform the country, but you need someone who has the best interest for the country. And I think a lot of things that we find is that people are more interested in benefiting for the financial gain, like trying to steal money. I was looking at the comparison of the last 7 years of the current president, when he came in and when he now that he's about to wrap up his tenure next year. And for me, what was shocking to see is that we had $9.8 billion debt as at 2015, and as at today we have 98.6 billion naira debt. So when I see something like that, that's just very extravagant to see how much hole we've dug ourselves in as a country, and somebody else will come in and further put us in more debt. It's just sad that we're at the point discussing that we don't have someone good to lead the country forward.
Now, I think when we talk about this, it's not just like a separate issue for Nigeria. I think that's like an African issue, the corruption.
Yes, the corruption is insane.
Yeah. So, how do you now, like you're in Nigeria in 2013 and you lived your life in Nigeria and you come to the UK and you see how things work here? How was the change, the shock?
It was a huge culture shock for me. I think it was great seeing that. I think it was the first time in my life I realized that things could actually work. You could be in a society where the government actually are putting in the effort to transform the country. So it was indeed a culture shock for me. Not more so the good roads and stuff, but how everything is in sync. Like, you have good public transportation system, you have power 24/7, you have access to food. And I think one thing I've always seen about abroad is that no matter how poor you are in the society, you can afford the basic needs. You can have access to good health care. You can buy food for your family. But in Nigeria, that's not possible because we don't have the right systems in place for access to good health care. There is no like a national health system that kind of ensures everybody's entitled to health care, which is what you see when you move to a place like the UK. You have the NHS that ensures that everyone has access to healthcare. Even when I was an international student in the UK, there was a time I think I sprained my ankle and I ended up going to the emergency room, and no one even asked for an ID or anything. They just made sure that I was attended to. I ended up having an X-ray scan. If I was in Nigeria, they'll probably charge me close to 70,000 to kind of get the X-ray
like
done to see the doctor.
Medical attention. Yeah.
Exactly. So like when you see things like that, of course nobody wants to go back to most Africans would want to go back to their country, having seen that they have access to the basic necessities of life.
But I think maybe it's okay to make sure that people are not as educated. People don't have money to travel, because the minute people leave Africa and they come to places like the UK, you're like, what? I can actually stand on the bus station and the bus will arrive and the train is working. There's Wi-Fi on the train. Then people will probably go back and start asking questions, because I think that's what we are. That's why when we go back, we demand more, because we travel and we see that these things are possible.
Yes, absolutely. Like, even like when you like, I think that is more even challenging for people who travel and come back and demand that change, is that not everyone is on the same page as you. You'll find somebody who is also well traveled, but because they like how the corrupt system benefits them,
works,
they don't want to change the system. So that's indeed a problem, because you're just like, you can't really eat your cake and have it. It's either we transform the system and everyone benefits from it, or you only benefit from it. And a lot of people are selfish enough to say that I only want to benefit from it, which is just sad.
What did you miss then while you were here?
I think Nigeria. I think definitely the food, the culture, the people as well. Like, the social life abroad is very different because, first of all, that's when you start to recognize that you're a person of minority, your skin color is a minority. You have challenges making friends, absolutely. But the good thing about the UK is that it's quite multicultural. I wouldn't say it's more multicultural than Canada, but it's still multicultural in its own way. Did I struggle to make friends? Absolutely. I struggled to make friends even as a student. But with time, I started to find my own tribe. I think food was also a big culture shock for me. Like, I knew how to like do the basics, and I remember trying to make stew one day, and I got my tomatoes, my paste, my onions, and spices, and I made stew, and it didn't taste like it should taste and I'm like, I started to cry because I'm like, what did I do wrong? And anytime I think back to that moment of why I was crying because the stew didn't taste right, I think it was just an overwhelming process for me in general to figure out like, oh my God, I'm actually in a new country. This is my life now. How do I navigate going forward? I wouldn't say I was a young girl then, but I would say it was just an overwhelming process that I didn't think that sometimes you don't admit to yourself, like if you're living like abroad, people expect that you don't miss home, but you indeed miss home. And sometimes people can phantom that you rather go back home than stay in another man's country that is working well for you. So I think it was just a accumulation of facts that I feel like I could not express to people back home to say, I actually like I would love to come back given the chance to go back. But everyone is going to look at you like, are you joking right now that you want to move back home? Like nobody's really going to try to understand that.
No, totally. Even the bad things that we just mentioned about Africa, sometimes you miss them. Like if you get stopped by the police, for me in South Africa, I wouldn't get a ticket. I can just talk because most of the time it's a man, like speaking my language. I can explain to them why I'm late. But you can never do that here.
You can't talk your way out of the system. Like you have to obey the rules. Like when you think you're driving, you want to make sure you're driving within the speed limit because you don't want any problem with the law. They're going to probably put points on your license and all that stuff.
And they will.
So when you think about all that, you have to behave yourself. Not think of the fact that racism can also occur in such situations. So you really want to respect yourself and just obey the laws. No one wants any trouble with the laws. Especially if you're like a temporary resident, that's the last thing you want to deal with.
Yeah, because there's always that question: have you ever been what like with the law? Do you have any convictions? You just have to say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when do you move to Canada then?
So I moved to Canada in 2018.
Okay.
And I went to do my master's in electronic commerce in Nova Scotia, Dalhousie University. So yeah, that's kind of what brought me to Canada. I didn't know a place called Nova Scotia prior to that. I basically I was very intentional with my search for master's program. I wanted to do something that I really enjoyed and I could see a career in. And I thought e-commerce was something I was very interested in. And I think as at then, there were only like 2 schools offering that course in Canada. So
you were specific, you wanted to go to Canada, nowhere else.
Yeah.
Why Canada?
Yeah. I thought it was more immigration friendly.
Okay.
I had a choice between Canada and US, to be honest. I think I just had, with the US, I had concerns with the gun laws.
Oh yeah, Canada any day. If those are your 2 choices.
Yeah, so I had concerns with the gun laws then, and I think there was a time when I was in the US, and I think I was scouting for schools and stuff. Like I was just trying to see what my options are because I know that at some point I was going to want to like do my master's. And I remember one of the schools I went to visit. Few days after going for that visit, I think there was a shootout at that school. So for me, that was more of a awakening moment that was not going to be a place I wanted to be in eventually. Canada was definitely much more friendlier to immigrants. Well, they have their own challenges as well, but I think the key thing was like I wanted the opportunity to stay back in Canada if I wanted to. I didn't have that option in the UK because then you didn't have the post study visa, which they've started to embrace now. So that's what informed my decision really. So I was very strategic this time around. I didn't just say, I just want to go to anywhere in the world and just go with the vibes. No, that was not the case.
I met like an elderly couple in Cape Town a couple of years back. We're in Stellenbosch. I was doing tours. and they were from Canada, and they were like, so we're talking about like crime in South Africa and things like that. And they were like, wow, like we're so shocked because in Canada, you don't lock your doors. Even now, like we left our car in the driveway and we didn't even lock our doors. I mean, these people are in South Africa. And I'm like, I mean, is that true?
Yes, absolutely. That is true. You can actually, like, there are times where I'm in my apartment and I don't lock my door. Yeah, I've slept overnight days without locking my door. I have no concern. But it doesn't mean that there is no crime. I think
Yeah.
it will be insane to think that there is no crime. Um, Things happen. Like, for instance, there was an incident that happened during the pandemic where a racist person ran a Muslim family over while they're taking a walk.
So that was like a racially motivated.
Related attack. Yeah, I've also seen it, like, here. One thing I see a lot that happens here is, let's say, for instance, something is just, I don't want to say when something is wrong, or if there is an important information, like maybe a missing child or something, you kind of get a notification on your phone just to kind of give you an information they're looking for somebody, or in a criminal case. Maybe there was a time, which was very strange, somebody
Is it
escaped
like
from
in the
prison
area or in the whole country, or it's only in the
in the province. So we don't have states, we have provinces. So
yeah.
yeah, there was a time I think a criminal escaped from a prison in Nova Scotia, and I kind of got the alert on my phone, oh, somebody escaped from prison, be on the lookout for this person. So I think in the next couple of hours they sent another notification saying they found the person.
Okay.
And yeah, so yeah, you still get those weird things that happen, and you're just like, oh my god, that's scary.
Yeah.
But definitely you can sleep without locking your door. I don't think anyone would probably enter your house.
But I mean, so how are they like accepting like like the racism and things like that? Are they accepting of all this multicultural and people that are like coming into Canada?
Yes, I would say they are definitely very accepting. I don't think all the places I've worked in, all the places I've been at, has been very accepting. Even though I live in Nova Scotia, and it's one of the smaller provinces. Trust me, it's very multicultural. I feel like I met more people in Canada from different parts of the world than when I was in the UK.
Oh.
So I met so many people from different parts of Africa, different parts of the Caribbean, different parts of Europe, different parts of Africa. So it's indeed very multicultural. A lot of people, there's a big immigrant culture. I'll meet people at my workplace and they'll tell me, oh, my grandparents migrated here 20 years ago, or my great grandparents moved here. So it's very pro immigration. Even our workplace is very diverse as well. In my team at work, we have Indians, people from Curacao, people from Germany, people from Denmark. So it's like very multicultural, very bubbly work culture. So yeah.
Would you say like Canada, it's more multicultural than the UK? Or it's just
I
like
think in my own opinion, yes, I would say it's more multicultural. I think the reason why I would say that is, with the UK, there's a concentration of multiculturalism. What I mean by that is, if you go to this area, you see this specific group of people from this culture. But in Canada, it's not really the case. Like, it's just diverse in its own way. You cannot, like, obviously, you probably see more Black people in Toronto than in other parts, but it doesn't mean that it's not as multicultural. It's still kind of the same even spread of different people from different backgrounds. That's kind of what I would say.
Well, so what would you like maybe like advise people who are in Africa now and then they are thinking of like traveling abroad? What would you advise them?
I would say do it. It's like, as I said, I think I like to consider myself an anomaly to kind of have the opportunity to do it twice. I think you should do it. I think it's really important that you move from where you are to see the world in a different perspective. That's what travel does to you. But the difference between moving abroad and travel is that you're now immersed in a system that is different from you. You get to reshape your thinking, your understanding. You get to learn new things about yourself that you never have learned if you remain in the country. And one quote I saw that I really like is that if we're made to stay in the same place forever, we will be trees and we will not have feet. So I think that's very powerful. Like, you have the power to move, you should move. I think one thing as well is with travel, Black people are in the minority. We are the ones who apply mostly for visas to visit almost any country in the world. And the only way you can reshape the visa and immigration landscape is by getting more people to apply so that these people in different places can improve their travel and immigration system to further help more Black people. Because if you hear a lot that people get denied visa, especially Black people in comparison to Caucasian people, the reason why they do that is because there are not a lot of people speaking up and advocating for Black people traveling. Like Black travel is really a thing, and if the more people get to expose systems like this, the more like it's going to help other people coming behind you. So those are the ways I would advocate for that.
And what do you think of the enormous visa, especially like the student like visas, the amount of money like you have to spend? Do you think it's justified?
It's a tough one. I think if you're just like someone going for undergrad, then it's absolutely justifiable. Like for me, if I could do anything different about moving to Canada, it'd probably be go through the other migration processes. I think then I wasn't fully aware of other opportunities I could have gone through except going as a student. But now there's the Canada Express entry, which allows you to migrate as someone who has work experience. So if you have more than 1 year work experience in a particular field, you could even have more than
Any
1 year
field.
experience, any field, you can apply into the Express Entry program. So the Express Entry program has 3 different programs, which is the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the Federal Skilled Trade Worker Program, and Canada Experience Class Program. So most times, a lot of people fall under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, which it means you have 1 year work experience in a skilled job. So that could be you have work experience in economics, you could be a business analyst, you could be a cybersecurity analyst, you could be a product manager, just different roles that requires education. So those are kind of what we call skilled jobs. Because of that, you can migrate to Canada. Of course, I'm saying you can migrate to Canada, but there are so many other factors that influence how you move. Because this is not the video to kind of dive deep into what that process is like. But if you want to learn more about that, you can kind of go on my page to kind of read up more about the different immigration processes. But yeah, with routes like that, it's kind of much more easier to migrate without having to pay international student fees. But if you're just somebody just starting out in life, you're 17 and you need to get a degree, of course, you have to go as a student because now you're at the space where you need to learn and know more. And if university is not your thing as well, and you still want to move abroad, you probably want to consider learning a skill trade. So one way or the other, you still have to kind of invest in yourself to be able to be employable and have employability opportunities.
What? So Canada seems like it's easier, like their immigration laws are easier than the UK. The UK is tough.
Yeah, the UK is tough, the US is tough, but Canada, out of all 3, is definitely one of the easiest options. As I said, it's easy in theory. In practical, it's not as straightforward, if I'm being honest with you. There are so many things you have to factor in. Like for instance, I'm mentioning that you can go through the Express Entry, the Skilled Worker Program, and all that stuff. But you need a certain amount of score, like it's a score-based system. And starting from 2023, they are going to change that a bit. We don't know what that is going to look like, and now more provinces are petitioning that they want to have more control of the kind of skills they accept into the country. And when you now have changes like that, that can impact people because currently they didn't do any. So it's on a draw-based system where they say people who has this score or more can apply and you get an invitation to apply for permanent residency. They didn't do any draw for the last 2 years. So do you know what that means? A lot of people are in the pool trying to get into Canada. So it's competitive. That's the word I'm looking for. It's quite competitive to
I
get
think a
in
lot of people are trying to get in, so they are tightening the laws now as well.
Yes. So they don't just want, like Canada is one of those countries that doesn't just want anybody. Even as a student, when you apply for visa, as an African person, the chances of you being denied is a bit high, let me be honest with you, because you have people who have gone before you that forged their documents or lied about things on their application that makes it difficult for more people to come in. So when you put in all those factors together, you realize Canada is not straightforward. Canada is not the UK where the UK gives almost everybody a student visa. Canada is not like that. They're very meticulous. It can take them 3 months, 4 months, 6 months before they can approve your visa. That's how meticulous they can be. Yes, because they don't just, because one thing with Canada is once one person in a family can enter Canada, you can literally bring your entire family to Canada. It just takes that one person. It's a very family-oriented immigration system. So for
when
instance,
you say family, you mean your immediate family, like your husband and your kids, or you mean your extended family?
Your immediate family. So for someone who is unmarried, let's say if you had, let's say, a sister that wanted to move to Canada and you have your permanent residency, if they're applying for the pathway that I mentioned earlier, they can put on the application, they have a sibling. So that automatically ties you. They have a reason to, they'll not probably be as meticulous on your application as somebody who is just brand new and has no ties to Canada. So the more ties you have to Canada, the kind of easier it is for you. So if you have a husband, for instance, who lives in Canada and you want to move to Canada, it's easier for you because now you can bring you and your children into Canada. So that's kind of how it works.
But you know, when you say like there's more Black people that are being denied anyway, like when it comes to these visa applications, but then you say, oh, you look, you know, like for people that applied before you, and there's a lot of them that forged like paperwork and stuff like that. Do you think it's justified though, or is it racism when it comes to these immigration issues? Because you get this everywhere.
I think
we brought this up on ourselves for being dodgy, or like,
yeah, I agree with you, but I feel like all this still stems from bad government. People would be forging documents if the economy was good. Like, see how I mentioned like $1 to naira is 710 naira. That's an insane amount of money you're demanding from a Nigerian. So if your tuition is probably, let's say, $10,000, that means you're going to be looking for almost, let me say, 7.1 million naira. And that doesn't include your living expenses. Like, imagine I was saving based on the exchange rate being 350, which was half of the money. Now my money has doubled. Some people feel like they have no choice than to just forge and see what happens. Some people get away with it, but not everybody's able to get away with it. Do I really recommend people to forge their document? Of course not, because I just feel like you're ruining it for other people who are actually genuine. But I guess those are the challenges you face as being a Black person, because even when you even have your visas right, you're on the immigration line and you're being scrutinized overly. Like, oh, maybe people before you who are not the same complexion as you, they go through security without no hassle. Then for you, they're like, oh, remove your shirt, remove your trousers. We want to check you properly. And of course, like when those kind of situations happen, you're like offended because you're singled out. And if you kind of express you're being singled out, they kind of be like, no, we're just doing our job. But it's just a stereotype being placed on people of color.
But like for us, really, like, because this is, how can I put it? In one way, it's like, okay, fine, did we bring this on ourselves? Or the stereotype should stop now?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. Did we bring it upon ourselves? Definitely, because you should not be lying when you submit a visa application. But then again, I feel like the measures some of these countries put in place in terms of immigration policies for people of color is definitely more strict. Like, for instance, somebody who was probably going to move to Canada for study from America will probably not go through the same hassle process. I think for those moving from America to Canada, you don't even need a student visa. You can move to the country. Then when you get there, you can now file for your study permit if you wanted to go to school. So you can imagine you're one barrier less than a typical international student, whereby you have to apply for your study permit before you arrive into the country. And you have to bring all sorts of documents. They will probably not ask them to bring, like, do you know what it means to ask someone to show 10,000 Canadian dollars? That's very expensive, whether the exchange rate was one to one or even 1 to 200. That's a very expensive ask to ask of anybody. Like, I understand you're doing it so that you don't become a liability to the government, but all hands are not equal. Like, access to education should be the same regardless. But yeah, that's a conversation for another day. But
Or maybe they don't even trust the government that issued these documents. That's why, because even for the degrees, like, do they even trust the certificates that you'll be bringing, the paperwork, or they double check them?
They will definitely double check them. Like for me, what was very helpful for me was I schooled in the UK, so I probably didn't go through that hassle of having to prove my education to the school I was submitting to. But people that probably studied in Nigeria will probably have to prove their education. They might ask you to get a West evaluation to kind of prove the equivalent of your degree. So when you now put that extra layer, it becomes such an expensive process for the average African or average Black person, because now they're putting not only more money into their visa application fees, more money into their education, but even the process for them to even travel is becoming a bit expensive.
And the English test, I think the UK is still doing that English test. Do they still do that in Canada?
Well, most places will require it, but what I tell people from English-speaking countries is that tell them you speak English. Don't be afraid to tell them you speak English. If they ask for your proof of English, show your O-level results. So for Nigeria, that would mean like a Cambridge O-level result, GCSEs. That could mean the West African examination, WAEC. That could mean SSC, NECO, the national exam in Nigeria. So those are the ways you can kind of prove that you're in an English speaking country. Also, you could get like your professors who taught you at universities to write a letter saying you were taught in English. So those are the kind of things you can use to prove that you're from an English speaking country. I always tell people never to write an English exam, because if you come from an English speaking country, you don't need to write that.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't need to write that. So for me, it's always like reach out to the international center or the graduate studies or your
that's extra money as well, isn't it?
No, you can just send an email and say, "Oh, I saw that English is required, but I'm from an English-speaking country. I have my O-level result attached in this email. Can I ask that you waive these requirements for me?" And they will always do that for you when you ask.
Also, people might not know this. Maybe they might think that it's part of the requirements and they just do it, the English test. Because in South Africa, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, you have to pay for the English test. Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to reach out to the school to tell them you don't want to write the English test, that you can speak English, and show them your O-level result.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know that. You see?
Oh, yeah.
Because for me, it's in the requirements. I thought you should just do it, and I did it, and I paid for it.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do. Like, people just do it without asking. But you should ask and say, "I'm from an English-speaking country. Can you waive this for me?" And most times they will say yes, but they still leave it as a requirement. Because even some of these standardized test bodies get to make money from this process. Like if you're going to write TOEFL, then you're going to make money off people writing TOEFL. The exam body gets to make money. So they will not want to take that off their requirements. So you just have to ask for it to be waived, and that will happen for you.
Oh my word, we can keep you here and keep learning. Wow, that's so dope. Okay. Wow, I know that now. Wow. So what are the things that we don't know about these immigration laws? Like, what do people don't know back home that they should know before traveling?
I think the first thing I would say is always do your research. The second thing is, I would say, if you're someone who has work experience, study should not be your first approach to moving abroad. I think you should always explore employment sponsorship for moving abroad. Like moving to the US, for instance, you can move as a skilled worker, which means that you can apply for a job, and if they like you enough to bring you to the US, they would file for you to move to the US. And which is also what you're seeing in the UK as well with doctors, where lots of doctors from abroad are being allowed to come to the country. They write a series of medical examination board exams for the UK to kind of standardize them as a UK practicing doctor. And that way you find a job and say you have these certifications already, you apply for a job, and if they say yes, we want you, then they file for your employment opportunities. We are seeing lots of that more and more in different parts of the world. You're seeing that in Canada, in UK, in America, in Australia, in Germany. And I know a lot of English speaking people don't like to move to countries where they don't speak English, but a lot of European countries as well have lots of employment opportunities. Of course, that comes with a lot of navigation, because now you're in a country where you don't speak the language. You can do things by learning the language before you move. Another thing is a place like Germany, they have free education also for international students. But of course, the language is always the barrier. So
would they
I
tell
think
you if you don't speak any German, or is it like the plan to kind of get more people speaking German?
you have to learn how to speak German eventually. Even if you start off some of your classes with not speaking German, eventually you have to continue, because if your class is being taught in German, how do you understand your classes? So eventually you have to kind of learn the language. I know people go to Italy as well because it's cheaper. So like there's so many countries you can explore, and don't limit yourself to only English speaking countries. I think that's what I will also say, because there's so much to see in the world that you're yet to see. Yeah, those will be my advice. And like I would not overemphasize your research. And if you know somebody in that country, like maybe you want to move to Spain and you want to know more about the process, it's always nice to reach out to people that are ahead of you. That saves you a lot more research than you normally need to do. Let's say, oh, you want to know how to, for instance, maybe file your taxes, or how to get your social security number. Like instead of doing all that research by yourself, you can just be friends with somebody or reach out to somebody you know. Sometimes someone through your network would know somebody in where you're going to, and that person can just save you a lot of time in research and trying to figure out how to navigate life yourself. And don't be afraid to DM people and ask them questions. Like people will be more than happy to help.
Yeah.
Like it's not the end of the world if they don't respond. But
we shouldn't limit ourselves to these English speaking countries. Yeah, because they can be expensive. You need to explore other countries as well.
Yes.
Wow. Because I always thought like maybe even places like your German, like you said, like maybe they might expect you to learn the language maybe for 1 year before you start your studies. Is that maybe one of the requirements they might have?
Like I don't know all the requirements per se, because if you're going to school, there are so many other factors. But for the most part in Germany, you have to learn the language eventually. Even if you get away with going to a private school and they teach you in English and all that stuff, if you're getting into the workforce, you'll be dealing with German, so you still need to know.
So you might as well just learn it. Yeah,
you might as well learn it from the scratch. So that's really how it works.
And I can keep you here forever. But like I think lastly, when you talk about like people moving away from, I won't say Nigeria only, but these skilled workers, people with skills that could help Africa. And now, because of the situation, they are moving away. They're all over the world because they're not getting recognition. They're not getting paid enough. They, like the security. You've seen that.
Yeah. Yes. Lots of people are definitely migrating. I think we're in a massive migration era. I think with social media and the internet being more integrated in our lives, people want to take that leap and transform their lives. And it might mean moving away from your home country to another country where you feel like you're going to get paid more. Like for instance, tech is the new currency. If you're in tech, anybody in the world is ready to grab you. If you're in tech and you decide to move to America, you probably make 10 times what you're making in Africa. So I can't blame people for wanting to move from Africa. Like you see that a lot with Indians. Lots of Indians are moving to the US because they get better pay.
Yeah.
Like you notice that a lot of companies will probably outsource their IT development resources to India because it's cheaper. But some of those people tend to realize that, okay, maybe I should move to the US where I can be paid 100 times what I'm getting now. So I think we're just in the area of massive migration. And I think one thing that can transform all what we are saying is good governance and better immigration policies for everyone.
Yeah, and I was watching a documentary once. I think the doctors in Zimbabwe, I think they were getting something ridiculous, like $5 like a day.
Yeah.
And they are moving away.
Yes, like even in Nigeria, you see the same situation with doctors as well. Doctors are probably one of the underpaid professions. Imagine earning less than $1,000 in for a month, and you have rent to pay, you have food, you have family. Some doctors have 2-3 kids. You have a car that you need to service. So many things you cannot even invest to make sure that in retirement.
You
just get it like
gone.
Yeah, like people are moving, like doctors are moving every and anywhere in the world because they know they're needed. And one thing with doctors is that I don't know about most of the non-English speaking countries, but whoever you are as a doctor, anybody is
Get a
open to
job.
welcome
Yeah.
you. I recently came across a video on YouTube where somebody's husband, who is a doctor, moved to I think he moved to what's this Muslim country? Saudi Arabia. And I was surprised that someone would want to live in Saudi Arabia because it's a very conservative country. But somebody would rather move to Saudi Arabia than being in Nigeria. Like it just tells you how much things we have to change in order to see things turn around and to stop the massive migration. If not, we're going to be in trouble as a country because you not
As a
have any more.
continent.
Yeah, like you're not going to have a lot of skilled workers that can transform the countries and the continent as a whole if everyone keeps moving.
Is the hope, though, do you think we might or we need to, as people who are living abroad, go back and take whatever we've learned overseas? Do you think we might be able to change things?
I think we cannot change things. Like I've seen people who try to go back and change things. To be honest, it's not everyone that can change things. There are just there's so much damage that has been done to our fundamental systems that until those systems are repaired, somebody who is just living abroad can't just come back home to change things because there are root causes of issues, that underlying issues that are yet to be addressed. Until those are addressed, we can't see that transformation, unfortunately.
Yeah,
At least that's my take on it.
Yeah. Because for me, what I see in my country, like you say, like the system is built for people to get away with what they've been doing for years. And for you, if you think you're gonna go there and try and be smart pants and change things, you can even lose your life because now
exactly.
disturbing now, this system that is already there.
Yeah. People don't want
really sad.
People don't want that change, and it's kind of hard to enforce that change, and it will only frustrate you, and you might just be like, okay, I've had enough, I'm moving back to where I came from.
Yeah, if you are even able to leave, you might not even be. I know from South Africa. And in closing, what do you want to teach us then? Or you can maybe
what I want
to just remind people about your page and like where to find you.
Well, of course. So to find me, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Unravel with Tolu. And you can also go on my website, unravelwithtolu.com. You get to find much more information about moving abroad. I have different videos with similar people like the Living Abroad podcast host, just to learn more about moving abroad. That's something I'm really passionate about. I think there's so much in the world to see that I should not be stuck in one place. I want more Africans to be able to move abroad. Even if you want to stay there temporarily, that's 100% fine. But just to see the world and how things work and how we can eventually bring some of those ideas to our own country to ensure that our country and our continent as a whole can thrive.
Tolu, thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a good pleasure. Thank you for having me here. Like, I really enjoyed having this chat with you. Like, it was amazing.
So.
Yeah.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening.
And you too. Bye.